Hi, welcome. So I am Karen Sims with the Trauma and Resiliency Initiative, and welcome to the See You Try show. I am so happy to reconvene. We weren't able to meet last week. We were sort of consumed with just a lot of things that have been happening, and Jason was gracious and allowed us to come today, and then that allowed me to bring my wonderful speaker, Richard Samuels, on. Before we get going, I want to just make a couple of really short announcements. One, next week we will be having Kim Bryant with Rattle the Stars to talk about suicide. Yesterday was Suicide Awareness Day, and so we will be doing that. And I'm going to do a little pitch because we're looking for volunteers to help us with our community violence response work. So I'm going to leave a little bit of time for that. And last but not least, I want to say that the views and opinions of Richard are his own, of our guest are his own. Not that he's gonna say anything that wouldn't be widely shared. We receive funding from the Mental Health Board and the Champaign County Community Coalition. So this is an effort, but again, this isn't necessarily their opinions. So having done all of the commercial, I do want to say, Richard, I'm in something I hadn't told you beforehand. So I have struggled. This has been a really difficult month, right? This month has been hard between politics, and we've had a lot of community violence here locally. And I have a couple of family members who are incarcerated in Florida, and COVID has hit their facilities. So it's just been difficult, right? And in the middle of the difficult storms, I have been able to peek at your postings on Facebook.
Well, thank you.
Have felt inspired and hopeful and just always re-engaged, because you always are that happy, inspirational face, right?
I try.
And so when I thought about it being 9/11 and just thinking about our week ahead, I was like, who could I bring on and have a conversation with that might be inspiring to a larger audience? And I can think of no one else but you, because you've just been so inspiring. And so I'm going to let you talk, I promise, but I'm going to do something I've not ever done on this show. And in part because we promoted the show with like the 26 years in prison, but I want to read your bio just to do that. Right. And then we'll work backwards, but I got to put the 4 eyes on.
All right.
So after spending 26 years in prison, Richard Samuels is now a criminal justice facilitator, consultant, and president and CEO of the growing Indie Group. He's an active member of the Marion County Reentry Coalition, an organization that informs and educates the public on issues concerning the criminal justice system. He is currently the face of, on TV, media, and billboard of the Marion County Health Department's What Are Friends For 2020 substance abuse campaign. He has collaborated on Senate House bill with state representatives and has been a spokesperson advocating for laws that would provide equal opportunity for individuals experiencing barriers within our community. He is certified in and facilitates moral recognition therapy, MRT. He is also a certified mental health first aid trainer. He is a recent Matrix model graduate. He is a certified recovery and forensic coach through ACADA. He is a seasoned and accomplished trainer and facilitator who brings his unique lived experience to the We Can program, which mentors, educates African-American males 16 to 26. He sits on the board of directors of Coffee, which is the community outreach for financial education, the Department of Mental Health and Addictions Advisory Board, and he currently facilitates Getting Ahead While Getting Out, a program at Pendleton State Prison, and hopes that he is a constant example of what is possible by turning around his own personal tragedy of incarceration into triumphs and success for others. He's also a proud Navy veteran.
That's a lot.
Right, right. And so, and it is not how it has always been. So, right, like there's
Right,
lots to celebrate.
right,
Maybe it would be really helpful because, right, the sexy part is always great, phenomenal
right,
success,
right,
hella
right.
fabulous. But to tell us a little bit about what happened before.
Well, of course, 26 years in prison, I was a knucklehead. Just like a lot of the young men I run into today, I thought that I knew it all and, I had all the answers. And of course, the law said otherwise. And so I found myself incarcerated on several different occasions, going in and out, in and out. And it was basically a maturity thing for me. I felt like I needed to grow up, and I didn't know which direction to go into. I had my mentors, and a lot of times those mentors were not steering me in the right direction. Of course, a lot of times when you don't find what you need at home, you'll go out into the streets looking for that love, that companionship, that caring, that family. And of course, with a lot of our young people, I grew up in that latchkey situation where mom was always at work, you know what I mean? And it was just a situation where there was no supervision. And so, unfortunately for me, I felt like, I'll go out here and I'll do it my way. Um, you can only do it your way for so long, and you take those bumps upside the head and all of those different times that I spent incarcerated. Each time was a lesson. Each time was something different. I learned something different, but it took me a while to get to the place where I understood that my journey in life was a learning experience for my purpose in life. And that didn't happen until my last incarcerated period, which was 2006. In 2006, I was 46 years old, and they gave me a 25-year prison sentence. They were basically saying that I'm tired of you. We're going to lock you up, or we're going to throw away the key. And of course, that was when I was tired of myself at that point, and I was like, is this, and I started talking to God. It was like, is this what my life was meant to be? And, I fell down on my knees and said, hey, can you show me something different? Can you show me something better? I'm looking for a better life for myself. And, I made a promise, and I said, if you will see me through this, because you have to realize they gave me 25 years, they wasn't going to take it back. You know what I mean? So I had to still do the time, even though now my mind was changing and I was becoming a better person and I was beginning to think in more positive ways. I still had that 25 years ahead of me, which would be 25, suspend 5, 20, do 10, because at that time you had to only do half of your sentence. And so, I had my conversation with God and said, hey, give me an opportunity and I will definitely do my level best to keep my word. I was, hey, my heart, my word, and I'm telling you, the truth because you're God, right? Yeah. So I moved forward from that time and just started focusing on everything but me. See, that was the issue. It was all about me for so long. And then as you mature and as you get older, you start to begin to realize that your purpose comes from how you help other people. And so that's kind of where I had that shift, that thought process shift, and started thinking more about those who were surrounding me. And so, of course, these were the worst of the worst. Murderers, rapists. We had just, I was just incarcerated with all types of individuals. And so, how do you get better when you're surrounded by what people think is bad or the worst of the worst? And so what I did was I just started talking to them about the things that I struggled with. You said something earlier in the beginning. You talked about the suicide prevention. And a lot of people don't realize that, especially for African-American men, suicide is not a conversation that is being had.
Yeah.
No one talks to us as we're growing up as Black men about our feelings.
Mm.
And so we shove those feelings down. And a lot of times when they come out in anger. They come out in frustration. They come out in ways that, people really don't expect, because we don't know about, we're not in touch with our feminine side, okay? That emotional qualities in us. Of course, now at 60 years of age, I'm old enough to be able to be like, I got some tears and I got some frustration going on. And, my life is just not perfect, you know what I mean? But I can really appreciate the fact that for a long time, I did not understand my feelings. I did not know how to control them. And so that led to a lot of reasons why I was going in and out of prison. So.
Wow. So I'm going to definitely come back to the advice that you have for people. And I'm going to cheat because I know this a little bit about you. So there were a couple things that were shaping and defining in your incarceration experience. And one of the stories that you've told me that's always stuck with me is the story about your daughter's visit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, actually, my daughter became a prison guard.
Mm-hmm.
And, I couldn't understand. My daughter is gorgeous. I mean, she is just beautiful. And I couldn't understand. I was like, what were you thinking coming into a prison situation and trying to become a prison guard? And she said to me, I wanted to see what you kept leaving me for. And that hurt. Not only did it hurt, it was almost like a smack in the face that woke me up to realize that, I thought about all the times that I wasn't there. And for me, and like I talked about feelings and not understanding and frustration and all of that, well, I never thought that because I wasn't there that I was doing anything wrong. I wasn't a father that was out here beating his child or, doing, bad things or whatever. And I'm like, well, why are you mad at me? I didn't do anything, I wasn't there to hurt you in any way, and then she explained to me the importance of my absence in her life and talked to me about, how difficult her life was, and that there were times when she really needed me and I was not there. Wow. And it just gave me something to really think about deeply in terms of, all the fathers that, all the people that, and interestingly enough, while I was there, I was the dorm representative. And so I got an opportunity to speak while everybody was on their bunks at count time and different things like that. And after having those conversations with my daughter, I made it clear to the guys. It was like, you say that you love your family, you say that you love your kids, and these guys are really ready to fight about, you're talking about their kids, you're talking about their mom, you're talking about their grandmom. And so what I would do at count time is I would stand up and I would say, if you can hear the sound of my voice, you're in the wrong place. If you really love your family and you can hear the sound of my voice, you're in the wrong place. And basically what I was sharing with them is that I had come to terms with I was in the wrong place, and that this was not supposed to be my destiny, and that I had so much more to give and could not wait until I got out. But hey, I still had that 25 years that I was looking at. And so I did some things. I went after a bachelor's degree, went after some classes, got a time cut, ended up taking 10 years, the half of that, down to 8.5. And came home and said, okay, now what? Finally got released in 2014, and was thrilled, was ready to hit the ground running. Like I said, was trying to acquire my bachelor's degree. In 2012, they took college out of prison. So that was kind of like one of my first roadblocks. It's like, wait a minute. How you go? I'm trying to be better. What are you doing? Don't take this away from me. So definitely finally came home, and one of the first things that I had decided to do was to finish my bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Wow. I was in for a surprise, a rude awakening. I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna hit the ground running. I'm gonna come out and get my bachelor's degree, and I'm gonna be this wonderful person and doing all this stuff, And so I applied, and I'm not gonna say the college name.
Okay.
I applied and said, I wanted to finish. All I needed was like 3 classes.
Yeah.
I think it was like 9 credits I needed to graduate. And so they sent me their application process and everything. And so on it, there's that box that says, have you ever been convicted of a crime and all of that? And of course, I've turned over a new leaf. I'm always telling the truth. So I'm checking the box, and I'm trying to go to school. So I'm not thinking there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So I check the box and everything's going well. And then all of a sudden I get a letter back saying, we cannot admit you to our classes until you do some other things. I didn't think it was a big deal. I was like, okay, so, what other things did they want me to do? So I had to write a letter saying why I felt like I deserved to be there. I had to have at least 4 letters of support. And I had to have 2 referral letters saying other people would want me to go there. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I having to jump all through all these hoops? Well, here's the kicker. I didn't even apply to be on campus. This was online. So I wouldn't even be around anyone. I'm just like I'm on the computer now. This was, I'm going to do this online classes. And I'm thinking, why are you making me do all of this when it's just going to be an online learning experience? Well, I eventually jumped through all the hoops, and they actually said no.
Wow.
And I was like, huh.
So what kept you going?
Listen.
Because I know you have the paper. So what kept you going?
So I said to myself, wait a minute. Now, I remember when I got down on my knees and I said, God, I'm getting ready to do the right stuff. And I made a promise to you. And I was hoping that if I did the right thing, that, you would sustain me through all of this mess,
Yeah.
And I'm thinking now, wait a minute, I know you're not going back on your word, because I'm being holding true to mine. And so what I did was I reached out to a specific individual who will remain nameless.
Okay.
And told them my situation. And they were someone from the city. And I said, listen, you know me, because I had been home probably about 6 to 8 months, and I had been dealing with this person for quite some time.
Okay.
I said, you know me, you know where I am. I need some help here. I would appreciate it if you would, write a letter in my behalf so that I can appeal this process. Because trust me, all the hoops I had to jump through while I was in prison, I learned that there was an appeal process to everything. That the first no that you get doesn't really mean no. It just means not right now. You know what I mean? And that's the way I look at everything in life right now. It's like, when people try to tell me no, I'm like, oh, okay, you just need to wait a minute. Because trust me, I'm still coming. So the letter was written. I was able to gain access and entrance into the college and finished my bachelor's degree and was thrilled, when I got my certificate of graduation. And it was just the first stepping stone for me to move forward in my purpose in life, because the one thing that I did learn while I was incarcerated, that you could go so much farther if you have letters behind your name. Mm-hmm. It's not so much about the letters, but it's about the learning experience that you have and the information that you acquire that allow you to become a better thinker and a better person. To be better, you have to do better. So
So no anti-intellectualism, right? That's the air quote, right? When
Right.
people who go, oh, it doesn't matter, and you're like, just for the own personal experience, you
Yes,
said it
it does.
matters.
Yes.
Yeah. So, right, like hopefully people out there are inspired because I heard a number of really core things when we talk about trauma that you've mentioned. One was you sort of approached every setback as a learning experience.
Yes.
You were like, okay, you have faith, which is a resiliency building
Yes.
principle. You kept focusing. You also figured out that you needed a village or a network of support to sort of surround you, and you leaned into that network to help you navigate
So
other things. Yeah. Okay.
so
No,
so
go
I would
interrupt me. Yeah.
so I would like to talk about that. Um, when I came home, there was a gentleman named, and I will name this gentleman
Okay.
Harold Bell,
Yeah.
and he has a radio station.
Hmm.
And Harold Bell was one of the first mentors when I stepped out of prison this last
He's in
time.
Indianapolis. I just want to
Yes, in
plug.
Indianapolis, Indiana, absolutely. And he said, of course, we talked on the side, and we had our great conversations. And he was like, man, every Monday I've got a few hours for you. So if you just are having problems, if you just want to talk, and that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that when people come out of incarceration, especially when you're talking about someone who has done long periods of time, we're not talking about a year or two. When you've done a stretch, when you've done 5 in a row or more, you know, those individuals need someone to talk to. Mental health is something that is so underrated and underutilized in terms of individuals coming back from incarceration. But that's another soapbox that I'll get
No,
on
no,
later.
no. We can definitely come back to that one.
But
Yep.
so he allowed me the opportunity to just vent.
Mhm.
And really, sometimes it's not so much that you were mad at anyone. Sometimes you just want to say stuff and you just want to get it out. And so he allotted a couple of hours on Mondays for him and I to just sit and talk about life and anything I wanted to. And that was something that was really monumental for me,
Mhm.
because it allowed me to just take all of that stuff that I had been, because when you're in prison, you have to push stuff down.
Mhm.
Things that are at the surface, you have to push it down because it can't be what's important. Your emotions and your feelings and all of that. No,
Yeah.
it's about survival in prison. And so when you start getting in your feelings, that's when you get punched. That's when you get slapped. That's when you become a victim. And so, those were the survival skills that I had learned and understood about being in prison. So with all that suppression, when I came home, I had a whole lot of stuff that I needed to unload. And he gave me that platform and opportunity. So one day he said, hey, man, I'm about to have a show, and I want you to be on my show. I want my people to be able to call in and talk to you, and you tell them about your story about prison. I was like, man, I'm not trying to be on nobody's show. I, I got issues. I got things that I'm still dealing with I'm not that guy. And he was like, okay, you're just not ready yet. I was
Mm.
like, no, I'm just not that guy. I'm not trying to be that person. He said, okay. So we went on and had our conversations for probably another month. And then he said, I'm about to put that show together and I really need somebody, man, to get
You
on
are
this
that guy.
microphone. And you're that guy, exactly. And I said, and the guy had been so good to me, you know what I mean? And giving me this time, I said, I owe him something. So I said, you know what? I'll do that. So I got on I got on the show and I told my story and the phones went crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, people just called and called and called because I had touched on so many things, more so not so much about prison, but how prison affected me
Mm.
and about how it made me feel as a man, as a Black man. And I went into a lot, and people were like, I got a son and my daughter. And I mean, people just, I mean, they were calling, they were crying. And I was like blown away that just me sharing my feelings and my story that could affect that many individuals. And so afterwards, of course, he's like, you got to get your own show from this, right? I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I said, no, that was a one-time thing. And so we went around and around again for another month. And then he said, the show can be whatever you wanted it. So he gave me a radio show, and we called it the Growing Indie Reentry Radio Show.
Yeah.
It was a blessing.
Yeah.
It was such a blessing because it was the foundation for everything that I'm doing now, everything that I have done, because with a microphone in front of me, and as you can see, I just talk nonstop once I get rolling. But it was a comfort zone for me. Of course, it took a while for me to adapt and to be able to understand the mics and the cues and, doing all of this. But once I got comfortable, I was able to call upon anyone I wanted to be as a guest on my show, like what you do.
Yeah.
So, so I'm in Indianapolis. So I was able to have the now mayor before he was the mayor, the now police chief before he was the police chief, the Marion County clerk. I was able to schedule all these people to come on my radio show. And by doing that, I began to develop relationships. Yeah. And then I got phone numbers. And, next thing I know, I've got important people's phone numbers on speed dial. I could, call anybody I want. And it was amazing to me. It was such a boost for my confidence. It was a boost for the determination for me to be something better than I was. And now I began to start creating a vision for what I wanted for myself and for my family, the legacy that I would leave for my children. These things became the important things in the forefront of my mind. And all of a sudden, I was popular. People would stop me in the grocery store and see me, and it's like, you're that guy on the radio. And I was like, yeah, but then, of course, now I have a billboard and I got a commercial on TV and some other stuff. And so it always blows me away when people say, I know you. And the first thing that goes to my mind is, okay, was I in prison with this person? You know what I'm saying? That's the thing but then now I realize that I have done so much good that I'm being recognized for those things as well. I've talked to a lot of people about karma. And, don't think that when I came home, everything was roses, because it wasn't.
Okay.
It was very difficult for me. And because of where I'd come from, but because of how much wrong I had done in the past. And a lot of times, people coming out of incarceration, and I want to make this clear, this is not just about people coming out of incarceration. This is about people who make bad choices in life, period. Okay? We all have some negativity in our past, things that we did not like, and things that we learned from because of the outcomes that happened based upon the choices and decisions that we made. But for me, when I got down on my knees and said, God, I promise I'm going to do the right thing now, I'm thinking, okay, as long as I do good, it's going to come back to me. No, it doesn't work like that. And it was a hard lesson for me, because I'm looking around and I'm telling you, I'm walking in faith. I mean, I did a lot of wrong stuff, okay? And there were opportunities for me to repeat that wrong when I came home. I saw things, your mind, you don't stop the criminogenic thinking immediately, because, you say, oh, wow, they're not paying attention. That's a lick right there. I could do something right here and take advantage of this situation. And I saw a lot of those, but in my mind, I'm like, nope, that's not who I am anymore. And I would keep on moving. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm patting myself on the back, because I'm making these choices and decisions in my head. But what I did not recognize was like, So bad stuff was still happening to me.
Mhm.
People were still putting up roadblocks in front of me for the things that I was trying to go after. And I was, I had this conversation with God. I was like, hey, man, because this is how I talk to God. It's like, I was like, hey, man, I thought we had an understanding here that if I did the
I
right
thought it
thing,
was supposed to be like all sunshine.
right, I thought
I
we
said
were
I was
getting
sorry,
there.
right? It's like when we're kids.
Exactly.
I told you I was sorry.
Right.
Like,
How many times I gotta say it, So it was, and so we had that conversation. But I tell you, he started putting things in front of me that made me understand why I was still having difficulty. And this is what I came up with. I had done so much wrong that I had not allowed my wrong to catch up to my right.
hmm.
Okay. So if you've got a whole lot of bad stuff in your past and you're walking that straight and narrow, all the time that negativity is trying to catch up to you, he's testing you. What choice and decision are you going to make in this situation? Are you going to make a decision that's going to send you back to jail?